But by the time he was 15, he realized this wasn't going to happen, and he ended up in prison. I have a prediction. I think I'm seeing it. I'm seeing where this is going, and them being featured in these newscasts and online media, is that they fought for their rights for their children to be included into inclusion. And schools being inclusive and programs being inclusive. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to take it back to the way it used to be. Because even in the commentary that this man, this individual, and I know that he doesn't understand. He doesn't understand. I don't know the man. I just know he's on YouTube. Just based on his commentary and the things that he said, he doesn't know. He doesn't know, and he thinks that. And actual journalists, journalists on the news were saying that they need to be put somewhere else. Okay, like they need to be put somewhere else. Meaning they're going to start to isolate the people of the special education and special needs population to where they started. It's like it's going backwards. It's not going forward. It's going backwards. They're going to take them out of the school system and programs, and they're going to end up being like they were before. For as long as education focuses solely on academic achievement and continues to demand results rather than learning, children and their families will continue to be failed by the system. And as my research shows, once a criminal pathway is trodden, it is incredibly difficult to find a way out. This means that those who need support the most often end up incarcerated. Both Elaine and Underlay's sons, still now only in their 20s, were in special schools, and continue to be in and out of the criminal justice system. So even though they're in self-contained schools where everyone in the school has, some form of disability or a challenge intellectually or, intellectually, cognitively, physically challenged, they're still in and out of the criminal justice system. I interviewed Elaine 3 times and her son Harry once. Between her interviews, Harry returned to prison. Now in this last section, I'm going to read it to you. It says, rethinking learning. If more support, and intervention in the education system was to occur before the police got involved, then these young people would be less likely to end up incarcerated and at the bottom of a human hierarchy. But for this to happen, there needs to be a rethink of what education is actually about. Okay. Because it is clear that the restrictive and damaging nature of the current system doesn't work for some pupils. It's like it's not working for any of them, actually. If instead schools can help children to learn creatively and open up their minds to new possibilities outside of tests, and over there I guess they're talking about league tables in the UK, then it is likely that most children would stand a better chance of staying out of the criminal justice system and reaching their full potential. My final thoughts. Okay, guys, so based on this particular article and my personal experience, meeting with my brothers, as well as professionally working in some capacity with the population in question, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know what it is so far as meaning the solution to all of this, but I get where people are saying about something needs to be done, but I truly don't think that them being incarcerated or put in jail is going to help them. Okay. in regards to rehabilitating them or somehow changing who they are, okay? Because they actually can't help it. I'm not saying you're not supposed to discipline and set boundaries and have rules and so forth and so on. That is not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that locking them up and putting them in jail, or they're in and out of the criminal justice system, is going to help them. Okay, it's not going to straighten them out. It's not. I think it's actually going to make it worse. And I think by them being locked up, there are a lot of them that don't, not all of them, but there are some that are just not going to understand what exactly is going on. They cannot help it. I just didn't realize how bad this had gotten. I had no clue. I wish that when you work in certain settings, it's because this impacts the population itself. Where I worked, I never heard of anything like this. I don't know if the people that were higher up, that went to trainings and so forth and so on, and are they aware of this? Because I haven't heard this. I had to find out on my own. It wasn't provided through my job, about things that directly impact adults as well as children who are special needs, okay, who are intellectually and cognitively challenged. That these are the pitfalls. The only thing that they ever really addressed was the fact of training, not exactly training them, but discussing with them. And it was very surface about, because I worked with adults in the end of my career of working in special education, if you will, is that if they are stopped by police, so this is another pitfall here, to not run, to get scared and run. Or a lot of them don't like to have social interactions sometimes. They're not easily to look into a person's eyes. These are social, nuances of giving eye contact and answering in a timely fashion. Sometimes their responses are delayed, and by that makes them very, very, very vulnerable for some really, really bad things to happen when they're put in a position to engage with police or any kind of law enforcement. That leaves them very, very vulnerable. You feel what I'm saying? So I had started a conversation about that. Like I said, it was touched on at my job, and then I took it a little bit further, just a little bit, because I felt like it impacted them, that they needed to know this was part of their daily living skills. They're adults. Things are going to happen. Okay, clearly things are happening, more so than I even knew. And I wanted them to be safe. And I wanted them, to the best of their ability, to understand, and I had started to find videos on YouTube. I do remember that. And they actually showed interest. They were requested. And then we would have a little discussion. And then the things that I felt like maybe they didn't process fully, I would try to brainstorm in how to kind of break it down and give it back to them to see, what they understood about it, to try to, because that's your job. That's why you're there. You're there to help them. You're there to facilitate them. You're there to guide them. You work together as a team. I never treated them in a certain manner. I mean, they had to say, I wanted to know how they felt. I wanted to know them. I wanted to connect with them. Everyone wants to have a voice. Everyone wants to feel they matter, and they do matter. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks for listening to Teachable Moments with April. If you did enjoy this episode, I invite you to come right back to check out my podcast and my other episodes. Don't forget to listen, add us to your